everybody? Happy Saturday!
Hey, how's it going? Welcome, everyone. Happy day. Talking about t-shirts, actually, I saw Mario Man was like, you guys need a t-shirt with the light bulb dude on the shirt, then on his shirt, and it's another light bulb dude, and then on his shirt. It's like very Inception, like Russian doll. I like it. That's cool.
I like it. I like it. I mean, I have the,
woo! I have the woo! I have my feet up in the air now because my ass is on the ground.
I have the hype shirt on.
And I got, of course, the Meeting of the Mind shirt.
What?
Thanks to awesome Design by Humans store that we got going on. Actually, I was rocking the hype sweatshirt yesterday too, so it's awesome to have this. We're gonna get mugs in too. It's so cool to like have all that. But of course, we don't have just the logos. You know, we got like the Nena, Cat Lurk, so many more. It's so much fun doing this stuff. We're gonna put out a lot more too. So it's all that dragon energy coming together, man.
That's right.
And hey, Crazy Doc, Azanka, Denise the Grease, we got RX Mongo, Fuse Fury, Mario Man. Let's see what else we got. We got Vargala's Vet. We have... I'm going through all the names that I see in chat. If I miss you, I'm sorry. Blame the computer.
I usually just blame streamer brain.
Nightbot. There we go. Didn't want to forget Nightbot. There you
what
go.
Up,
Pretzel
Nightbot?
Rocks. What's going on?
Stream Elements.
Stream Elements in the house. It's a new bot rap group. We got Pretzel Rocks. He's the DJ. And then you've got Nightbot. We're just going to say it's a she. You know, might as well.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
Yeah,
wow,
you know,
that just
she's the lead singer. And then...
It's like a whole new... It's like a whole new spin on Nightbot.
A whole new bot.
I always imagined him as a slightly shy, introverted sort of fella, just hanging out, you know, doing his thing.
Who is a member of the most streams? Like, they watch the most streams, this Nightbot does.
Yes, that is true. Yeah, there's some stats that you can find on the Twitters. No, the Twitches. Wow. Streamer brain. Here it is. But it tells you who is like top chatter in all of Twitch, and it is Nightbot. So,
and for those of you listening on the podcast too, so Nightbot is basically a bot that just kind of helps clean up a little bit of the organizational administrative stuff needed for chats for live streams. So we have Nightbot, Stream Elements, Pretzel Rocks does our music, and much more.
Exactly. So definitely join us if you're listening to us on Podbean or iTunes or Player FM or wherever you take your podcasts. Feel free to check us out live every Saturday, 1 p.m. PDT, Pacific Daylight Time. Would love to talk with you.
That's right. Absolutely. And of course, we have game streams every other day pretty much, where we're right now doing God of War by Santa Monica Studios. Such an awesome game. We actually learned some more stuff. We'd love to share it with you all today. And that'll be at 5 p.m. PDT. So make sure to check that out as well. Again, same place as usual. Twitch.tv/MindMineTV. So today, you know, usually what we do is we pull in stuff from like The Guardian or The Intercept or whatever. You know, we pull these different articles together, or we take suggestions, of course, from the lovely people that we have in our community here who are all shouting out, "Boy!" Which, if you play God of War, you know what we're talking about with that. You know, usually we pull it together. But what we want to do today was get this a little more personal and get you all to know us as content creators, as streamers, as podcasters. It kind of like our experience and stuff. We want to share, like, we share our thoughts over, you know, many different things from the sciences to education to the arts. And today we're going to kind of hone in specifically on our main background, which has been the entertainment industry, film, theater, content creation. We've worn many hats within these realms for over 10 years now. And we just kind of want to share like what our experiences are, because a lot of people wonder, a lot of people aren't sure what exactly goes into these productions. You know, what actually... It takes up a lot of our time and energy, not dragon energy, but what takes up a lot of our energy. And so we want to get involved with that and get involved with you, the community, by answering your questions as well about the entertainment industry and about being an actor, producer, director, audio engineer, lighting design, all of that, and answer as many of those questions as possible, while also showing you some of our past work and give you a sense of, where we're coming from, what some of our kind of baggage is that we carry around with us when it comes to the content that we put out.
Chilling into this music. Talk about nice chill content. I have to say, actually, when I do a lot of my editing, I like to let the music, if there is music in that piece, sort of guide me through it. So
It's true. There's a lot that you could do with music, and we'll definitely hit on that too, and the tone of music. And we have some examples that we want to talk about as well of how, like, for instance, music can impact what we watch, or audio quality overall, how that impacts what we watch. And we're also going to project it into games too. So you probably will hear some God of War references that we utilize just because that's what we're playing right now. But they do a beautiful job of utilizing cinematography. Yes, cinematography in a game. And we'll get more into that as well. In story development, how these characters develop, why we connect with them or why we don't, among so many other aspects. And again, chat, feel free, throw us your questions as we're going along, whether personal or, again, for overall industry or a specific niche topic that we're hitting on. Please make sure to ask your questions, as that's what we want this day to be about for this Serious Talk Saturday.
So we're going to start off with some origin stories. Da-da-da.
Not origins like EA either. No. I don't want you to be like hiding your wallets and be like, no, not EA, loot boxes, get the hell out of here.
If you would like to know, the first origin story of Evin is free, but if you'd like to purchase the Tatiana origin story, that'll
be... The Tatiana DLC.
That's right. That'll be 100,000 brain cells. No, nothing like that. But yeah, so, we all have, we all get our starts in different ways, right? And life, as we all know, is a interesting mess of pathways that, like, leads you to where you are right now, right? And you start one place, and then a few years later, you're like, I didn't even know I was going to get here. This is great, right?
Yeah, if anything, think of it like this. You have your desk. You have all of your electronics splayed out, okay?
Yeah.
And you individually send one end of the cord from one device into another to make it all connect. But by the end of the year, somehow they're all in a pretzel. And that's just the way life works.
And we're not talking about the lead singer of that cool bot band.
Pretzel.
Exactly. So, Evin, let us know, what is your origin story? How did you get involved with filmmaking, with acting, directing, content creation, all that good jazz? When did it all start for you?
So, for me, it was all a fluke in a way. I mean, like, the funny thing was that when I was a kid, I was one of the shyest kids ever. Like, I'm rarely talked to anyone. I was kind of the person where, if I was with my mom and we were going out somewhere and, all of a sudden someone started talking to me, I would look up at her and be like, okay, you gonna answer the question? Like, I wasn't very good at creating conversations. I wasn't very good at holding a good conversation. I wasn't sure what to do with it, and I was just so damn shy for whatever reason. And so it was really difficult to break out of that shell and to become more comfortable with just myself overall. And, I went through a lot of just ups and downs in life, went through a lot of different things. And, finally I had gotten out of high school, had gotten into college, and a cousin of mine, actually, on my mom's side, was like, hey, you should take a theater course. And I was like, well, the theater thing really isn't for me. Like, I've only watched ever, I think, one musical, which was Oklahoma, and that was the worst decision I've ever made in my life. One of the worst decisions I've ever made in my life. I take that back. But I'm just not a big fan of Oklahoma, no offense, but so that didn't really resonate with me, right? And I guess I was just a little reserved at it. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? What do you want me to do? Like, I don't know. But she's like, you know what? Just do it. Just put all that concern to the side and try it. She's like, just do it for one semester. Take a class for one semester, just an intro theater class. It'll be good for you. If anything, you'll have some fun. You'll get to meet, different people. And it's just a good kind of stress reliever. So I was like, all right, Let's try it. We'll do it. Because my whole family, too, especially on my dad's side, very much are storytellers. Like, we love telling a good story, and we get very animated. And, like, from my grandmother to my great-grandmother to my dad and my uncle and everything else, like, anytime we tell a story, or they tell a story, they're always jumping into character. And so they're always pretending to be the person they're talking about. So I thought, okay, maybe there's a connection there. Let's see what we can do. And so I took the class, and I fell in love with it. I'm like, this is my favorite thing ever, because the teacher I had, I lucked out on. They were new to the university, and they were just a pain in the ass, but in a good way. Like, if they saw that you had issues, this person just pushed you, and either you were going to break and just say, I give up, or, they would say, oh, well, I think I have something here. I think there's something more here that I have that I didn't realize. And he would try to pull that out of you. And luckily, I was on the ladder in the sense of, I was being pushed so much, but I was seeing like the improvements over time and what I could do. And I was surprised at like how much power like my voice could have, my stage presence could have, because, for a tall person, I'm 6'4". And so, for a person my height, I was very meek, very quiet, and very reserved. I was always worried about like scaring someone.
Scaring them?
Well, because like I'm already tall and towering over them, so I don't want to have like this booming voice at them too. And so I would always, like, oh, hey, can I, or, hey, do you mind if, very, very meek. And it got to the point where from the classes, I realized like how much power, how much energy my voice could have. And I just felt more confident. And so with this, I then switched it. So, originally I wasn't sure. I was thinking about like, should I be a history major? Should I go into this major, that major, maybe Spanish? Because I took Spanish for several years before. And I ended up becoming a dual major, doing marketing as well / communications and theater. And ever since then, like I dove into everything I could, from production aspect, behind the scenes, directing, producing, writing, to acting, and all these just different facets. And I've been everything from electrical to grips to just stage construction, building sets. I've just tried to take it all in, and I absolutely loved it. I loved theater history. I know you hated it. We'll get into that too. I love theater history. I loved learning how to tell a story, and I think I've always been sort of naturally inclined to the concepts of like psychology, and I've always been interested in it. And so, I think marketing and communications and theater, they all have an impact, like we all get an emotional response from X, Y, and Z. And for me, it was really cool to kind of piece everything together and understand why an audience can be so moved from a piece. And I remember, because I went to school in Michigan, and Western Michigan University actually had a beautiful play that was done that I was talking about like assisted suicide, some of the issues with it, but some of the stories of the people behind it and why they chose to have that done to them. Especially the story of like Jack Kevorkian and stuff like that. It was very intriguing. And at the end, though, people were crying, people were hugging, people were like in deep conversation, deeper than I've ever seen before. Because, most people, when they come in, they're around strangers that they don't know, or, a few friends, maybe they just met up before they went into the theater. And, usually it's like, oh, how's the weather? Did you catch the sports game? Oh, this or that. But then all of a sudden it's like, well, what would you do if you're in that situation? Or what? And it was just like amazing. It just completely blew my mind. And everything that I started learning when I was in my theater major all really clicked from seeing that piece. And so it all just, all of a sudden hit me. And I went, oh my God. And I went, I want to get involved with storytelling. I want to get involved with getting people to think and moving them in a different way, and really impacting them in a specific way to help them kind of feel again. Sometimes we get so desensitized by all the crap around us. And so, I wanted to be a part of that. And film kind of came in too, because a lot of my friends were theater majors. They ended up like connecting with the film kids and, trying to do projects with one another. So you start kind of picking up on that. And I've always been the type of person where I'm in it 100%. So even if I'm acting, I'm also like helping move sets or doing what I can, asking, hey, can I help with this? Can I help with that? And I'm asking questions, I'm trying to learn. So I would ask questions to the director at times. I would ask questions to the producer or stage manager, depending on if I was doing theater or film. I was always asking questions, and some people looked at me funny, like, shut up, leave me alone. But other people are kind of like, okay, cool, sure. I don't usually get asked that by the actor or by this person and that. So.
I mean, actors are just props, right? Like, you just move them around like they're just there.
Well, for many actors...
Oh, they're people, too. Okay, never mind.
Well, no, not even that. It's just the fact that there are many actors who don't want to learn anything else about what they do. They're just like, hey, I'm in front of the camera, I'm on stage, okay, now I'm done. And they don't want to learn about some of the other aspects and how that impacts the overall production. And I always did. So I got very involved with also a local theater group. They were a traveling Shakespeare company, and it was professional. It was great. I got paid. I traveled around the U.S. I did a lot of Shakespearean acting, from Richard III to A Midsummer Night's Dream and many others. And it was a blast. I had an absolute great time doing it. That really inspired me even more, going, I could actually do this professionally too. And it just taught me a whole lot more, and an appreciation for understanding a script and a story and how to break it down. Because there are so many aspects of even Shakespeare's scripts that were really fascinating. For instance, everything was written in iambic pentameter, which means it has beats, almost like a heartbeat, as you're kind of speaking it. And if it broke the iambic pentameter, it would tell you that a character is going through some sort of stress or some sort of change, drastic change. And so all of a sudden it's like, okay, that things are not normal at this point in time. Something's going on. Some kind of elation of energy and emotion is happening here. And the reason for a lot of that was because they had very short time schedules. They would get a script in a week, have to memorize it basically, and then perform it. And so I found that fascinating, that even within the script, without saying it, based off of just our language alone, it could tell you so much about the character and what they're thinking and how they're saying certain things. And it was just fascinating to me. So I dove even more into it. And I started also going into screenwriting and playwriting. And, I got to the point where I had a collection of my plays that were published. A local director noticed my work and also ran a publishing house and decided, hey, I want to get your plays out there. So we did that. And, we have worked on several of our of my screenplays, as well as we've worked with a lot of different professional screenwriters too, for the different like short films that we've done and just online content that we've done, which has been a blast too. But yeah, it just hasn't stopped since then. Just telling that story, being able to create, being able to find new ways of telling that story, and just experimenting. Like, not all of our stuff works out, right? But we still test it and still go with it, because then we can say we've been there, we've done that, we have the hands-on experience, and it makes us appreciate it even more. It's like, okay, well that sucked, but that's okay. Or like, oh, it could have been better, but we've learned from that process, just like with anything else. And I really appreciate that. So it's driven me ever since, and now we're to this point here on Twitch.
Whoop.
So I guess if that hopefully summarizes as best as possible. I was trying not to delineate and go off, topic too much, but.
So would you, what medium do you prefer? Is it film or theater in terms of as an actor and then as a director or kind of behind the scenes?
That's a tough question, because a lot of people ask too, well, what do you like more? Do you like acting or do you like film or do you like theater more? And it's like, for me, they're so different. There's similarities, but there's so many different aspects, because in film, you never, a lot of the times, film in a linear fashion. You're doing one scene that happens at the end, and then all of a sudden you're doing a scene that starts in the very beginning of the story, and it's all over the place. And then the editing team kind of pieces it all together and brings it together in the end. And so, it's a very different experience, because you have to be very quick on your feet with your emotions and be able to switch your mindset. Whereas with theater, you have a consistent flow, but you're live in front of an audience. And if anything happens, you have to be quick on your feet there and try to salvage something if something goes wrong, whether someone says the wrong lines or a set piece breaks off or a costume or prop gets left on stage and you have to figure out how to maneuver it off of the stage. So there are a lot of different variables that make them very unique entities. I would say, though, if I really had to pick, I think it depends on the story. I think that's what really drives me. There are certain stories that just work so well with theater because you want that live presence. You want your audience to maybe really witness, almost in a way, something that happens right in front of them, to have a very powerful emotion or to get them moving in a certain direction. That just really only works with theater. But at the same time, if you're directing something in, say, film, you're really controlling the eye of the viewer with the camera. And so when you want to get to the real nitty-gritty details and it's a story that really needs those elements highlighted, that's where film comes into play. So I think it really depends on story, the demand of that story, and that's really the core of it, I think, for me. I love them both very, very much, but they are very, very different. Again, being behind the table or on the stage or behind the camera or in front of the camera is just a very, very different experience. And so it really depends on, again, that story, because this is the reason why, too, many theater scripts had to be adapted for it to work on film. Because many theater shows, not many people realize, many theater shows have been pulled and adapted to film, but they had to alter the script and what we see. And sometimes even the story, because they go, that just does not work on stage. And also vice versa. It's a rarity, but sometimes we get some film scripts that then get thrown onto stage, and you have to figure out, how do we adapt and twist this? And that can very well change the story too. So again, it's just based on that story.
That's fair. Yeah, there is definitely, like you were mentioning, they are very different types of different mediums for sure, even though it may appear as though the result is the same, right? You got a bunch of actors, a bunch of props and set decor, and you have a story, right? But yeah, the means to get there is certainly very different. I know certainly with films, you can film out of not necessarily out of chronology, depending on how the film is done, but just certainly the way that you view the film at the end may not be the way that they shot it. Often it's not the way that they filmed it in the order, which for an actor can be havoc, because you're not really able to experience the story how it's meant to be viewed, and sometimes that can hinder or make more challenging, the fact that you have to go through those emotions or something like that. Or if you're have to film something where you're trying to do something that is a continuation of a piece, right? Like, okay, now you're sad on a Monday, but then 2 months later you have to be sad for that same exact reason. You have to remember how you filmed it back then and stuff like that. So it can be challenging, certainly for an actor. For the crew and behind the scenes, I think, at least from my experience, I found that to be amazing, because you get to, you can usually reduplicate what's happening in the environment much easier than you can with the actor. So that's really great for that purposes. But in terms of the acting bit, it's rough. Whereas with a play, you are rehearsing that play the same exact way each time, over and over and over and over again in the same manner. You know what's coming next, et cetera, et cetera. So it's as somebody in our chat said, Azanka, it's definitely people who can improvise. People who can think quickly on their feet will definitely excel in theater, because something always happens. Not that it necessarily goes wrong, but different audiences create different vibes for the actors on stage, actors themselves, right? Like one day you could be feeling one certain way, the other day you could be feeling a different way, right? So you're really, even though you're rehearsing and doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, everything is different day to day.
Oh yeah, well, and not to pull the conversation way off course, but to go off what you're saying at the same time, you're mentioning this for the most part, but that keeping that energy for a play can be so difficult, because as you said, you're doing it constantly. sometimes, depending on the level of theater we're talking about here, you could be doing it 6 days a week, and maybe 2-3 times a day. And you have to try to make it a unique experience every single time, because if you don't, you're coming off like an automaton on stage, and you're lacking emotion, you're lacking the connection with the other actors and with the set around you, that kind of environment that's been created around you, because you've just kind of gone on autopilot. And so we see that, and it's amazing too, because as an audience, we see that disconnect and it turns us off. We just don't get invested in it. It's something about this kind of natural energy and emotion that could come from an actor that can really help grab us by the face, basically, and help steer us along for this story, and be more than willing to be grabbed and pulled around for that story. And I think that's really the key of it too. But yeah, that energy is one of the toughest things too. It's exhausting. It really, really, really is. And, of course, you don't want to become an automaton because of that, like I said, that lack of connection, but also for the fact that if something does go wrong, you've put yourself in autopilot and you just don't know how to respond and react and salvage the situation. And at times you can only make it worse a lot of times too. And so, again, it takes a lot, and it takes a lot of willingness to try to wipe away some of like the past shows. I mean, if you already did a show, say in the morning, you did like a morning show or whatever, maybe for a school or what have you, and you didn't get a great response. Maybe people didn't laugh at the jokes, or maybe it was just a very quiet audience, very low energy. They're tired. They haven't eaten breakfast, whatever it is. And that can easily stick with you as an actor for the rest of the day. And so, trying to force yourself also to forget about that past show, not looking at the past, not judging based on the past, and just looking at the present / what the show coming up will be like, can be very, very difficult.
Yeah, I remember categorizing audiences by the day they would show up. I'd be like, okay, if the show opens on a Thursday, but official opening night is Friday, which I was like, what, can't it be Thursday because that's opening day? I don't know. And then you had your Saturday crew, and then potentially had 2 matinees, or a matinee and a show on Sunday or something like that. I was always like, oh, Thursday crowd's gonna suck. I love opening night, opening Friday crowds, and then Saturday's like mixed bag. And then the matinee was always kind of quiet, but then sometimes it surprised you, and it was just, being in the back, just sort of like listening, like, are they reacting the way they're supposed to? I just remember, if I wasn't sort of in the opening scenes of a play, I would dread being back there and just like listening for that, because if they were, if they didn't react the way I wanted them to, I felt like, oh, well, I'm going to go out there and it's just going to suck. And I already hated, like, I wasn't even looking forward to going out on stage, because exactly like you said, for theater, you want that connection with the audience, because if it feels like you're not impacting them in any sort of way, anyway, like they can, I'd rather take them jeering and like throwing things on stage and knowing that I had an impact. But if they're just sitting there passively and just looking at you, I'm like, what, am I boring you? Like, why are you here? Like, get up, go, leave. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh yeah, any emotion is good, like you said.
Yeah.
I know that I remember playing Lord Capulet in Romeo and Juliet. And, of course, they old age make up to me and everything else. But I had, good height, booming voice, so it worked well for what we were working with. And there were people that would refuse to come up to me after the show, which I'm fine with, because I always get that weird awkwardness about me whenever, I don't know, I always feel weird when I'm an actor coming out after the show to meet the audience. In a way, like, it's a nice thing for the audience, but for me it's very weird, because I'm like, well, I didn't do it for the attention. I did it because I loved the show. I wanted to entertain you all. Like, if you got to laugh or you got to cry or whatever, that's great. But I always feel awkward, like, hey, because I always felt like, hey, look at me. I just did that on stage. I did that thing on stage. That was me. Hey, I fucking hate that feeling. I really do. I don't like that, because that's not why I do it. But I had people who were afraid to come up to me, and they would have their friend go, oh, you did such a great job. I really, really liked it. My friend, thinks the same thing, but, you just kind of intimidated her, so she's afraid to come up to you. Like, I would get that, but I would be like, good. Some people would be like, well, what do you mean good? I'm like, because that was the character. If I was able to impact them enough to where they assume the character is me, I did something right. because that's the whole point of it. I want you to believe that I am that character. If you're seeing an actor playing a character, I haven't really done my job, and I need to either revamp what I've been working on, or I shouldn't be playing that role because maybe it's just not the type that I should be playing. But to not get too carried off of that before you go deeper in discussion, what is, you've been kind of delving also, of course, into your background, but let us know as well, what was sort of your spark and then your drive that really pushed you to do what you do?
So good questions. So when I was really, really young, probably, I want to say maybe like 4 or 5, my parents brought in this gentleman to our house who had a video camera. And my parents were like, oh my God, this is like some new technology. I was in Romania, just FYI. And they were like, we want to try this out. Like, we want to get a video of you. And I was like, okay. And they're like, yeah, because, you like to dance around. I like to dance around, And they're like, yeah, we capture that on camera. And I was like mortified. I'm like, no, we're not capturing that on any sort of recording device. What are you talking about? And they literally paraded me in every room of the house, right? Like, I was in my room sitting on my little couch. And the video, I look so freaking awkward in that entire video. But they're just like, all right, Tatiana, like, be yourself. I'm like, okay. And... And, I obviously, I didn't see the final product until actually much later when I was much older. And I just remember just feeling really awkward. Like, there was this thing pointed at me, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And then I remember when I watched the video, and I was in my early teens by the time I actually saw it. And I was just amazed because, like, oh my goodness, like, that video captured me perfectly. Like, you could see it on my face how I was feeling. Like, it just blew my mind. And I mean, obviously I'd watched TV and like I saw things before, but there was something about the fact that it captured me so perfectly that I got really interested in that. And then when I moved to the US, I got a little bit of a taste of writing when we had a teaching assistant from the UK, actually, in my 5th grade class. And he was allowed to like do a project with us, and he had us all write stories. And he was like, they have to be fiction, they can't be real, like they can't be about you and your life and this and that. And I thought it was so stupid. I was like, this is the dumbest project. I was just so grumpy about it. So I sat down and I wrote my first like little mini story, and then I turned it in, and he was like, this is amazing and all this other stuff. And he was just so excited by it that I was like, all right, let me reread this thing. What is so exciting about this? Like,
wait, what did I miss? What?
Yeah. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, you created such a rich world and this and that. And that was really cool too. And I think that kind of like definitely, stirred my interest in writing, and I started reading a lot of books, and I'd like devoured the library and stuff like that. So I really became interested in sort of these fantastical sort of worlds that I could create with words. And then in like, I think 7th or 8th grade, took a French course with my friend, and we were always like looking to do stuff. Like, we really loved French, so we were always looking to do stuff. And we asked the teacher, for whatever reason, we're like, ooh, can we do something cool for the class? And she's like, yeah, if you guys want, you can do a news segment in French, like you're reporting on news stories and stuff like that in French. And we were like, yes, that sounds awesome. And so we sat down, we wrote this story about like this fisherman that found a mermaid, and we had an interview with like the fisherman who was like her brother, and we like had the mermaid who was like this other person that we knew just like sitting in the corner. We filmed this whole thing, and then I was like the reporter, and I was like reporting on this amazing story, and we filmed it. And again, we had such a great response. And I again remember looking at the video, I'm like, wow, that just came from like, we just had an idea, and then we're like, how do we make it happen? And then we did. And then we showed it to people, and people were like, wow. And I think it was like really the response of the audience that really like just drew me in, I guess. Because I was looking at it and I'm like, this is kind of crap. Like, we didn't have enough time. We had this crappy camera. Our accent is in French. It's terrible. Like, I was focusing so much on every little negative thing that I was looking at. I'm like, this sucks. And everybody else was like, no, this is awesome. What are you talking about? You're crazy. So from there, you know, I sort of just, I fell in love with just TV shows and films and books and stories. For me, that's really what grabs me all around is stories. And then by the time I got to high school, they had a drama club, and I was just I was friends with some of the people who were in it, and they were like, oh, just come and hang out with us, and like you can help out backstage or something like that. So I was like, sure, yeah, I'll do that. And again, it was like, wow, this is different. This is different than like having a camera in front of you. And I started watching the plays, and I love that electricity that happens between the audience and the actors. And then just realizing all of the other things that go into it, like all the crew and all of the hard work that goes into the prep work and the planning. So then I started doing theater as well. And, yeah, I remember also like one time when I went out and, oh God, I forgot what the show was. It's like Our Town. That's what it was. Our Town. Which again, I was like, this is a dumb play. Like, whatever. Like, I want to hang out with people and do this thing. And yeah, I came out afterwards to meet the audience, and this woman was crying and she was shaking. She's like, oh, I just wanted to really see you and like make sure you're okay and this and that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I apparently had such an impact on her that she couldn't stop shaking and crying. And I was just like, whoa. So that was really cool. And I got interested in the idea of acting for the camera as well, because you can control so much more. But I was just really afraid because I had remembered again, you know, certainly from when I was little, and I was afraid of the camera. And then later where, you know, what I thought I looked like and I thought I sounded like, and by the time I looked at it, I was like, this is not quality. So I kind of stopped doing a lot of that. I stopped theater. I stopped sort of getting involved, but I still wrote a lot and I read a lot of books. And then fast forward to college, at this point, somebody needed a director for a play that they had written, and nobody wanted to take it on because they were like, well, we don't know if it's going to do good, we're not really sure, blah blah blah, this and that. But it was written in the style of Oscar Wilde, which was one of my favorite playwrights. I was like, sure, I'll take it on, whatever. And that was amazing. Directing was incredible. Having all, like, it wasn't even, I didn't even feel like I had any control, because certainly by the time everybody is doing all of the stuff that they want to do, you sort of just have to stand back as a director, and it's like, okay, well, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Like, I have no control over it. After opening, you know, after the last rehearsal, right before opening night, that's it. It's their show. You're just in the audience. And I remember feeling and thinking, I was like, I think this is what people feel like when their kid like grows up and like does things and like walks by itself by him or herself and like just does things. Because I was watching my cast and my crew, and everything just worked. And like, there was, not everything worked smoothly, but everything did work, and everybody like knew what to do. And I was so proud of them. I started like crying. I was like, this is amazing. So I really liked that whole thing. And I had a chance to work on a few videos and everything like that, like with my parents. My dad really liked filming us all the time, you know, and so then every time I got a new camera, I would take it around and like film my cats and like create these stories. And but I didn't know editing really, and I didn't have those tools at the time. And of course, back then it wasn't as easy as it is now, you know, having everything digitized. You know, you had tapes, and you had to, the editing process was much more complicated. And so I enrolled in I volunteered for a local TV station because I wanted to learn how to do all of that. So once they taught me all the behind the scenes stuff, I fell in love with that even more than theater, because you could control it a little bit better, and you could really like, you know, show what you wanted to show. And that was awesome too. And I quickly found out that, again, I didn't like being in front of the camera, because we had to do a commercial for the TV station, and everyone's like, oh, Tatiana has to be in the front, and I was like, no. And I tried to find all these ways to like not be on camera. They got me though. I was eating cookies one time, I didn't notice. But yeah, so that was really cool. And then, you know, after college and like real life and all that good stuff, it sort of dropped off the radar until I worked for a company where they sort of were just short-staffed in their marketing department. So I started helping them out with some of this stuff and got really interested in it again. And one day I was like, you know what, I need to get back into theater. I need to do that. So I did. And I met Evan, and he was like, I do film. And I was like, oh. And that's kind of how it all started. And that's my short, condensed version.
Yeah, exactly right. That's how we met, actually, was through theater, because we had auditioned for lead roles, male-female lead roles, in a play called Bus Stop. And from there, yeah, we just connected, vibe. We worked a lot with one another as well, because, again, so much of the story was around our characters. We wanted to better understand the characters and the script and all that other stuff. And yeah, I remember, too, that I got into a film that they were going to try to basically start get funding for. So they were, film a short film, and then ideally they were going to send it out for investment to then get hopefully more money so they could do a much larger film. And the two brothers that directed the piece and wrote the piece spent a ton of money in this film. And it was like this weird kind of post-apocalyptic kind of science fiction film. And, randomly they had messaged me and were like, hey, we know you from theater, actually, because one of the brothers did theater too, and was like, we know you can do this role. Do you want to be in it? And I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it up. And they were looking for extras. So I had grabbed Tatiana and said, hey, well, they're looking for extras. Why don't you come on set? And I know you were saying too, well, I don't want to spend like 12 to 16 hours on a set. That sounds horrible.
Yeah, because that's what because I was like, oh, how long do I need to be there? And you were like, we'll be like the whole day from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I was like, that sounds terrible. What?
Yeah, and then we did it, and I remember you having a blast, even as an extra, where it's like you guys have even more downtime than anything else, just waiting for the setup and everything. But yeah, I know you said you kicked it off with a lot of the other extras and had a blast doing it, and then I had a blast filming it as well. And so, unfortunately, the film never went anywhere. The brothers kind of dropped the ball. There was a few issues as well, but the overall experience was fantastic. It was really a lot of fun and very eye-opening to both of us too. And yeah, that seemed to really help propel us. And I know from there we decided, well, let's just create our own films. Let's do our own content. Let's see where we can go with it. And, instead of just relying on other people to kind of run the production of it, let's create, but let's also focus in on the production too. And I think we'll have a better appreciation, like what kind of marketing goes into it? What kind of pre-production planning and scheduling do we have to focus in on? What's the production scheduling look like? And what kind of people do we need and items and whatnot? And what are some of the, specific processes happening at this time? And then from there, what does the post-production look like? How do we go through the editing and the post-marketing and the release? And we did so much research on, for instance, I'm trying to think here, like film festivals and submitting to those and the process of that. And we've submitted to multiple film festivals as well throughout that time, thanks to, that initial kind of jumping in and throwing yourself to the wolves. And, we've done plenty of content online. We've done, content for clients as well, for businesses and individuals and many different aspects, many different realms or focuses. And I personally, I would not trade that for the world. I mean, what are your thoughts based on our kind of experience over time of taking on, going from theater to film to like content creation?
What I've liked the most about this is that we at least I didn't have any formal education in like digital media. I did take a lot of theater courses, holy bojangles, and the only one I didn't take, as Evan mentioned before, was theater history, and that would have been my major at that point. But for some reason, I was like, I don't want to sit and read about theater. Like, I want to do it. So I took a lot of like what they called practicums, which was like the lab equivalent of the theater major, where you went and you built sets. You went and you built like you sewed together costumes, and you did the set decor, and you took the directing class, and you did the acting courses. Like, you did all this stuff, and that to me was very it spoke to me in a way that the rest of the college didn't quite do, because then the rest of the classes you just sat there and someone just talked at you, and then you took notes, and then you did a quiz, and then you were like knowledgeable. And to me that was like it wasn't as fulfilling as like when I built something with my hands, and then it was up, where I ran the lights, and I was on these terrifyingly tall ladders that I went there like twice, and then after that I was like, listen, I'm out, I'm tagging out, this is not my department. And then I remember in my directing class I got to work with like grad grad school students, and they were amazing. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So, you know, and then, but there wasn't, at least for me, there wasn't any formal digital media. But once the tools got more simplified and easier to work with, it was like, oh, okay. It doesn't, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what tools you use, right? Like, you don't have to have fancy equipment. You don't have to do this. I think you need to have a, you know, a good story and sort of have this vision and a plan and a follow through to get to the end. And in that way, it wasn't too different from like what I learned in theater, which was you had to have a vision, you had to have a plan, and you had to get your resources and your ducks in a row. So that's just been really wonderful to sort of have what I think of as an organic learning experience, and then just doing it, you know, because once you do something, it's like, okay, I know how to improve on it right now, right? As opposed to just sitting there and like theorizing about it. And so I feel like we did a lot of doing, we did a lot of experimentation with each of our productions. We challenged ourselves each and every step of the way, and then once we looked at it, like I everything that we've done, every time I would look at it and be like, oh, I know what to do better next time, you know, and like,
yeah.
And that was really exciting because it made me want to have a next time, you know, like almost as soon as we were done with something, I'm like, okay, I have an idea for something else. Let's do it. So that was really great. And then melding, you know, the artistic side with like the corporate side, as I call it, because I had a 9-to-5 for a long time, worked for a lot of companies that were also sort of, that were both smaller and bigger. And so I got a lot of aspects out of the way in terms of the business. And it's like, okay, I know we can run this better. Like, I'll take the good stuff. I know how we can do this better. And so we talked about how we could bring some of this information from the art, from the artistic side, or from, you know, the theater side and the film side to the corporate world, and let's infuse it with some of that creativity, you know. And I think that also spawned some really cool projects that we ended up doing for companies, for ourselves. We actually did something for a Google partner at one point. They had this Google runs these breakfast series for these companies for their marketing people, and we kind of had free reign. They were like, we need to show you know, the power of video and like storytelling to get people to get advertising and like get videos and stuff like that, and Google is sponsoring this, and we're like, okay, let's do it up. So we did this, you know, short film showing the importance of online video, basically, but it was a cinematic film that we created for them.
Right.
And then again, seeing the reception of that, you know, people are like, wow, that's so cool. I think it's funny. I feel like a lot of people are like, wow. And I'm like, is it wow because you didn't think we could do it? Or is it wow because you didn't think of it that way before? Like, it's hard to tell sometimes.
Yeah, well, you know, it's funny too because, you know, we tell people, we're just like, oh yeah, we do this stuff, and we don't make a big deal of it. We just really enjoy doing it, so we do it. And it's funny though, because when people see the content, a lot of times like, oh, you're like serious. And it's like, well, yeah, you kind of have to be. Like, you know, you have to be engaged, and you have to want to do this to put the amount of time that we have into something like that. Like, what? You know, we're not saying, hey, look, I created a film, I shot it on my iPhone in like 5 minutes. Like, that's not what we do. We've shot films on phones, don't get us wrong, we have done that. But we put time and effort into it and into the script and everything else. And I don't know, I think it's like a lot of people hear about it, but a lot of people like to talk themselves up and like to be like, yeah, I totally got this YouTube channel and I got like 100,000 subscribers and I totally like put this video up and it like went viral. But then you check it out and it's like, yeah, you got like 20 people to see it. And we don't even really know if they actually watched it or if they just let it play for 5 seconds and then turned it off. You know, like so, you know, I think there's enough of those people where people just don't take it seriously a lot of times when people say, oh yeah, I do this work. Again, unless you're like, oh, I'm working for Paramount Pictures. Then people are like, oh shit, well, you know, can I get into on a film? Like, that's, you know, that's usually how it works out. But it's a very interesting situation nonetheless. Now, the first thing we worked on talking about films too was a film called Paper Thin. And that was, of course, originally a play Because we knew the playwright.
Yeah, so Evin was in a play. It was a 2-person play written by this playwright that we knew, and it was actually a different story. It was a similar story, but we did get permission from the playwright to adapt it for the screen, so we had to change a few things, and so Evin actually essentially rewrote it and included a Romanian character because why not? Yeah, and then we filmed it. Sorry, you can continue telling the story.
Yeah, no, but that was our first experience. You know, we had worked again at this point with other people on film projects, but this was like our first ever project, and we were doing a film that was about, how long was it? Maybe 10, 15 minutes in length, maybe a little bit longer.
Paper thin?
Yeah, how long was that?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure. Probably like 20.
Probably like 20 minutes.
Oh, you know what? It was under half an hour but it was more than 25 minutes because some film festivals considered a short film under 25 minutes. And then long films were 30 and over, and we're like, but we're at like 27. Where the fuck? What happened to the 25 to the 30 minutes?
It's like we were a tween.
Yeah, it was like this awkward growth period.
It's like you're not quite a teenager, but you're not quite not a teenager. It was that weird kind of timing with it. That's right.
Yeah, and then we, I know for some film festivals, we're like, well, do we just like re-edit it so it's shorter? Do we re-edit it so it's longer? Like, it was pretty funny. But yeah, it was somewhere like about 27 minutes, I want to say.
Yeah, and we saved up money. We invested all of our own money into the project. We, again, looked at what resources do we have. We were trying to go smart about it. And I think this is great for anyone who's also looking to do a project of their own, is don't start off huge or mammoth if you know you don't have the budget for it. And don't try to break yourself doing it, because as many people are saying, of course, too, in chat, it's all about the story. Some people have said they've even gotten pulled into a story with really bad acting, but the story was so good that they just kept watching it. And so I think that's really one of the keys too, is just have a good story. Don't let, animations, or don't let CGI and how those kind of appear to overrun the show. Let there just be also a good story. Don't try to be Michael Bay when you have a beer budget. Just do what you have, work with what you got, and write a story around the resources that you have. And that's pretty much what we did.
Yeah, I think our actual budget was, I think, somewhere in the like maybe $1,100 when all was said and done.
Yeah, and that was including like food for our crew and everything else, and everyone volunteered. There were some people that we knew that were from theater that wanted to also try out film and loved that we were just jumping into it and really trying it out as well. And there were other people who have done film and were like, yeah, no, I really like the project. I like you guys. So let's do it and let's see what happens. And yeah, I just remember it all kind of working out. There was stressful moments, absolutely, scheduling conflicts and people not showing up, or people dropping a lens and breaking it. I remember that as well. I mean, there's just things that happen.
One of our cameras, the lens
was dropped and
shattered. I just remember the person like, well, she's not the one that told me. She sent somebody else to tell me, and they were like, yeah, so this thing kind of broke, and I was like, kind of broke, but there was like,
it's like kind of pregnant.
And I just remember, because the person that dropped it, like, she was a sweetheart, and she was very helpful throughout the whole process. So it's not like she just took it, was like, I fucking hate these people, and like dropped it. Like, it happened, right? And I just remember this like serene calmness came upon me, and I was like, okay, well, I guess we're gonna shoot a different scene today with a different camera. Like, I didn't really feel anything. I was just like, okay, well, shit happened and let's move on. And like, I certainly didn't want to like panic and like start screaming and ranting on set. I did that later in the privacy of my home. But
yeah, we invested in everything on our own and bought equipment as needed, and that was an amazing experience overall. I would not take that away for anything.
No.
I think for us it worked well. It doesn't work for everyone though, right? Like, being thrown to the wolves like that just doesn't work for all types. And luckily enough, we also had the theater experience. So that's the other thing, right? Like, we had the production aspect from theater, where, you know, if anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. That whole Murphy's Law thing that was brought up in chat earlier too. It's like, it just happens, right? And so we were able to kind of carry some of that production knowledge from theater to this realm as well. And it worked well. It worked well for what it was. And, you know, we can look at the piece now and go, oh, man, I wish we had a different kind of camera at the time, or I wish we had, you know, this and that. But we busted our ass for it. I mean, we were able to get a cafe to let us film there for free. We were able to do a bunch of stuff and just really work with the people and, again, work with the resources. And so, you know, overall, I would say, you know, it's not like the most amazing work, but considering the fact that was our first film of us doing everything, you know, I'm proud of it, though, you know, and I am very happy the fact that we were able to complete it because, again, we were also in that big budget film, you know, that was that sci-fi film that we were talking about earlier, where they wanted to get a short film going and then, you know, get a bigger one once they got the investment, and that fell through.
Yeah, and they had spent like $40,000 just on the like few scenes they did shoot, and they had, I mean, they had the fancy equipment.
Oh yeah, they had like, you know, the Red Epic cameras, you know, like the multi-$1,000 equipment that you could have. They had jibs, they had all kinds of rigs going on here. And, you know, we're just like, all right, well, let's just see what we got. And so, you know, we used very little, but we tried to make it work based on the story. And so, you know, we've just kind of taken it from there. But it was a hell of a ride for sure.
Oh yeah, and like I said, like I learned so much just from. Even when I was actually filming a scene, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, next scene I'm going to film like this. That's where I think I also learned. And we had done a lot of planning and prepping for sure. But even then, I was like, okay, more planning and prepping. I was like, this was not enough. Yeah, and then from there, we looked for more opportunities to do more films. And I think after that is when we got... I'm trying to think of like what. Yes, we had seen that there was a 48-hour film festival, well, that runs actually internationally, but they of course run at the local level as well. And then if you know, sort of win at the local level, you go and compete on, and so on and so forth. And once we did Paper Thin, we're like, let's challenge ourselves, because we shot Paper Thin in 2 weekends.
2 weekends, yep.
And
editing for about a month after that or so.
Mostly because I was like teaching myself editing, like advanced editing. And so we were like, okay, the 48-hour festivals, if you're not familiar, is that you get like a topic or a theme at the beginning of the 48 hours, and you have to write with that topic in mind, and you have to film it, and then you have to edit it, and you have to submit it all in that 24-hour or 48-hour period. But
the other caveat too is a lot of times they'll throw you a couple different things. For instance, you must have a character with this name in the scene, or you must have this prop or this item somehow utilized, which for us was ice. So they give you like a certain kind of framework to work within, and to make it even more of a challenge. So you're like, oh shit, did we forget, you know, an element here, or do we have them all in here? Okay, great. And so it's like, you don't even have a story yet, but yet you have a character name, you have a prop item, and you have to figure out how to successfully use it and be creative without it being like obvious that it was
in a line, like a line of dialogue also that you have to be used. Right, and it can't just be like, oh, I just threw these at the end of the film real quick.
Yeah, hey guys, look, I'm drinking water that has ice in it, and I'm saying the line, that was one tough day, if I do say so myself. Like, no, it just doesn't work out, right?
Yeah, and for our theme was fish out of water. And then I don't remember what the line was.
Yeah, I don't remember it either anymore.
I do know it was ice, and we're like, how the fuck are we going to put ice in this? And the name of the character... I also forget, but I think he wound up being the reporter. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, well,
that whole thing was a blur.
Oh yeah. And Crazy Doc says it's kind of like Whose Line Is It Anyway, except the points kind of do matter. They really do, really do, because you're getting voted on too, and then from there, the winner of that goes on to the national festival, and then they go to an international festival, which I think was in like France or somewhere. Somewhere in Europe, I think it was France, but at least for the year that we did it. Yeah. And unfortunately, though, it's a very political type of situation. This is not knocking the 48-hour film festival or any other film festivals, but it is very political. And so, of course, people kind of looked at us and went, oh, you guys are new to this. That's nice. And then they seemed to give more attention to the people who had done it in the past. And so, unfortunately, our film kind of got overlooked. It was like one of the first ones to show. So, of course, tons of people to these festivals show up late. So not really many people got to see it, which was unfortunate. But it was a blast, though. Like, our whole crew had an incredible time. All the actors just had so much fun. And, just amazing that to be able to do something in 48 hours really challenges you in just such a unique way that it's really hard to describe until you actually do it.
And we had one of the smaller crews as well. We actually, I think, had the most actors. We had an ensemble piece, but we definitely had the least amount of crew, and we doubled up on a lot of things, which, I think if we, at least from a sanity and sleep perspective, would have been great if we didn't. But I was definitely editing at the end there, and everybody was just sleeping like on the ground in our studio, and I was just like, coffee, espresso, coffee, Diet Coke. All right, I'm up, I gotta finish this one. We gotta render it, and it has to go out tomorrow. That was awesome, though.
Oh yeah, and I remember because my sister was helping actually doing some of the crewing and stuff, and her and I passed out for like an hour or two on the studio floor because we had an office there, and I remember at that time we just kind of passed out on the floor, and you were like still going hardcore trying to edit because you were trying to get because it's based on like fantasy role playing or LARPing and things like that. And so we were trying to get very specific graphics to work and really doing some crazy shit for having only really at that point in time 24 hours or less to edit everything. But I know you were so determined, and at that point we're just like, well, we're not editing. I can't do anything. So we were just kind of like, okay, we're going to pass out for 2 hours on the floor, and then we'll be back up and we'll give you some emotional support and we'll get you some more coffee. How about that?
I think there were donuts involved also, which was good times.
Yeah. And I know we're going to be showing some things throughout the time too. I don't know if that's something you want to show now, or if you want to kind of go into more conversation.
Yeah, I see you guys are checking it out. We can actually show it. It's let's see how long it is. So we also had a time limit for it. That's right. So it's only 6 minutes and 37 seconds because it had to be under 7 minutes long as well. So yeah, so our theme was fish out of water. The name of the character, I don't remember what it was, but you do hear it at some point because we had to put it in. And then we had ice was our prop. And I think I don't remember what the line is. Oh, you know what? I think it shows. It may show. Does it show before the film? So I know we had to write some specific things on it too. It's been so long. We'll figure it out though. But yeah, here we are. I'm gonna bring it up. And we're gonna watch it, guys. I haven't seen this
in a long time.
In over 3 years.
But yeah, this is called Mercenaries of Moranth. We worked on it, and again, this was in 48 hours, so we filmed everything in less than 24 hours because the editing took the longest, as well as the music production, because we had to get someone to create music for us for the specific film, so that took them time as well. And I know they got the music in very, very near the end of the due time. I know we were like trying to throw that in at the right timing and stuff too, and everything. So yeah, this is less than 24 hours really just filming everything, because again, most of the time your work is in post-production. The editing, the sound syncing, the organization of all the clips, all of that. I mean, that's the bulk of filming really is post-production.
Yeah, and we luckily too beforehand, we amassed an amazing group of people as well. Like we got somebody who was like majoring in orchestral film orchestral music or something fancy like that. I think
from Emerson, right, or something.
Yeah. And so we had original score created for it. We worked with another screenwriter as well, and then of course Evin was one of them as well. And we had actors that were both sort of casual actors, but also theater actors and also film actors, and also actors that were doing it professionally as well. So we really ran the gamut. And then we asked people too, like, what kind of props do you guys have? Like what kind of costumes? We had makeup artists that also, like, that's the field that they wanted to go into. So we worked with a lot of people who are also very passionate and wanted to do something cool. So that's also why we took on the ambitious project of utilizing an ensemble cast, because we wanted to give opportunities to a lot of people as well, because they were also like, oh, well, I want to do the 48-hour film festival, but I don't know anybody else who wants to, right? So we're like, all right, we'll do it. Like, come on, let's jump on this bandwagon and see where it goes.
Yeah, so let's show it. Let's do it up.
So let's do it up. Without further ado, let's see if this works here.
If you want to bring the screen out. There we go.
All right. Here we go.
You're serious about this?
Yeah, I know. It's my job.
I don't want to write a story about this.
I'll have a draft for you by Monday.
Well, what am I worried about? Ah, Oh. A cookie.
Oh, these are not cookies. They are the sacred medallions of Carnivore.
Thanks.
So, you gonna start or not? You're already late.
Late?
The moderator is supposed to be here 15 minutes early.
Well, I'm the moderator?
Right. So, introduce yourself, maybe?
Okay. Yeah, sure. My name's Sean Middleton.
Use your avatar!
My what?
This is Gameaholics Anonymous. We don't use our real names.
Right. Sorry. I'm Garu Stook.
Hello, Garstook.
Hello, everyone.
What's your class?
My class?
Stop it.
Your role. Your status.
Oh, I'm a writer.
Oh, a writer. A scribe. A, wordsmith?
Yeah, sure. What are all your names?
Rook. Huh? Yeah, agreed, man. Everyone just love everyone. Isn't that right, Mr. Thurston Howell?
What the hell?
It was an accident.
Oh
It slipped.
It's not a real wolf. Hunting it.
Help me! Oh no! Oh no! You healed him! Oh, you healed him! Oh,
Enough! Tire of your mindless dribble. I'm going to finish this once and for all.
Oh, hey, man, calm down.
No. Huh? This is the future. Behold, the relic! Shut up!
Better not kill my battery life with this thing.
With the relic, I will rule all of Hammerguild! Dantooine, Jawa, Tuscan. Oh, Sneaky Pete 59, stop it! You can't do that.
Ice spell. Ice spell. You're frozen.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. I cast a spell.
Those are just ice cubes. Weary mortals, you can't stop me. I will defeat thine enemies and all who oppose me.
Oh my god, everyone. I'm so sorry that I'm late.
All right. That was so much fun. I forgot about so many things.
Yeah.
The wolf! No! It's
Oh
not a
my God.
real wolf. You can stop hunting it. Oh, good times. Good times.
Well, and luckily, a lot of playing basically playing a shit ton of fantasy RPG games really helped with that too. So. Because I know that we were working with another screenwriter for this, Nate, and it was funny because we're like, oh, what should we do? And we're like trying to overthink everything and you know whatnot. And I just remember being like, hey, let's just do something like on LARPing or like role playing or like, you know, fantasy stuff. And he's like, I mean, I don't know about that. I'm like, I think we can do this. I think we can. I got you. I got you, boo. It's okay.
Oh, did he not play? I wasn't there for the, I was driving back from where because you got your topic at this, like, grand meeting.
Yeah.
And then I had to drive back to our studios to, like, get going. And so by the time I got there, I think you guys sort of had the story kind of started, but that's funny. He's like, I don't play games. I don't know what to do. What?
Yeah, but as soon as we started writing it, though, he's like, oh, that's good. And he started coming up with shit, and he's just like, oh, and let's use this name, and that's it. And I can't remember if we both kind of came up with the ice spell bit, because ice was the prop that we had to use, or if it was him. I can't remember, but it was like, we were all just kind of like, it was cool, because whenever you're writing with someone that you vibe really well with, just ideas start coming and you start building off one another so easily. And that seemed to be what happened with the script when we were doing this. We were just having so much damn fun once we got that focus of, okay, what is this? Like, what is happening here? Who are these characters? Great. Boom. And I think what helped having two authors, we talked about this for The Expanse, how there's two authors and how they wrote characters differently because each one writes a certain chapter. And I think for us it was kind of similar, not saying this was anywhere near The Expanse, but just the fact that, you know, he would focus in on one character and be like, okay, so this is how the bard should be. And I'd be like, oh, cool, and this is how that warrior, you know, character should be. And yeah, and like these are the different things that we would kind of like implement and we'd bounce ideas off of. And I think it helped a lot. Whereas I think if it was one person, it would have kind of felt all the same in a way, and all the characters would kind of maybe have had kind of the same voice, which is what you want to make sure, especially for something like this, where it is such an ensemble piece, that you want to try to avoid that as much as possible.
And the actors really brought a lot of their own, like, characterization.
Energy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
no,
was
I mean,
really nice.
again, that piece was a lot of fun and whatnot, but the actors really brought their A game. And what was great too is that if you were there to experience it, you could see that many of these actors were pushing each other. You know, they would deliver a line and the other actor kind of received it and went, oh, okay, you're going to come at me with that, then I'm going to come at you with this. And so, you know, each time we would do a scene, you could see like the energy pick up each time we did a retake a lot of times, you know, because like, oh, maybe let's try a different angle, or, you know, let's do that again. We had a sound issue, or maybe we had this or that. So, you know, you'd take a lot of retakes. And each time, though, instead of them just getting tired and rolling their eyes like, oh, God, this again, they fed off each other so well that, again, it was like, all right, now I'm going to be bigger. Or, okay, now I'm going to do this a little differently. And it just came out so well. And, you know, a lot of their actions were improv, too. Some of the best things came from their improv abilities, too. So, I mean, again, so much credit goes to the actors and the amount of time they put into this and energy, and just how much of themselves they were just willing to throw out there. And not worry about being judged or anything like that, especially as it's competitive, right? You're always worried about like, oh, what will people think and what will responses be? And I don't want to be the one thing that's negative, or one of the things that's negative that gets pointed out. You know, you want to try to do your best. And the fact was, people are like, no, let's just have fun. Let's just go with this. Let's be professional, but let's still have fun with it and push each other and see what we can do. And yeah, it was just a blast to actually be there and go through all that.
And I remember actually a lot of the actors kept their like character portrait photos up on their like Facebook and stuff for like months. And everyone was like, oh my God, we had so much fun this. And I'm like, that's great, because it was so much fun. But I always felt bad as you know, when you're setting up something too, it always takes so long to set up like cameras and like lights and audio, and like gotta get that going, and then you do a lot of like little test shots and everything before you actually call in the actors, like, okay, let's go. And so I just felt like, oh man, you guys have been waiting around for hours and hours and hours. But they were like, no, they were ready to go. They were super excited. And then we actually had a photographer on set as well that we had, and I remember seeing some of the photos, and it just looked like they bonded really well too, and I was so happy for that, because I was like, I just felt bad. So I'm like, no, hold on, the cameras aren't ready yet. Chill.
Oh yeah.
So that was good times.
Yeah, and we had a friend of ours actually. Well, they're thanked actually in the credits there, but friends of ours who they had just, you know, they had gotten married, they had finally bought a house, and so of course we're like, this is an awesome house. Hey, by the way,
can we use your basement and then your gigantic yard?
Yeah, they were out in like BFE, Massachusetts, and so they had like a ton of land that we just didn't have while being in Boston. And they're like, yeah, no, totally, let's do it. So we filmed everything on one site. One was in their backyard or field, and then the other stuff was in their basement. And then all of our props and the costumes and stuff were all up in their living room.
Oh my God, we took over their house. It was terrible.
Oh yeah, and they were so welcoming for it. So we really greatly appreciate them for all of that. And you know, they had like a little girl and stuff like too. But the little girl was having so much fun. She's like, oh my God, all these people and toys and props, and it was awesome though. It was really, really a lot of fun. So yeah, I don't know. It was just one of those crazy things. Totally worth it.
And it was nice to tie in our love of gaming as well, and sort of, you know, the personas that I've created online.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's like, this is very much a real thing, whether it's kind of D&D or LARPing or what have you, and then just the sense of people maybe even to a point getting so absorbed in a virtual character And we wanted to try to display that in a fun way without judging one way or the other, to be honest, but just having fun with it and having a good laugh and trying to bring something that really anyone from any perspective can enjoy, whether you've played fantasy games or not, and what your perspective is, that you can still enjoy this film.
Exactly. And then we can show Pepper Knobs to sort of show how we bring that cinematic film quality to the corporate world.
Yes, we've done a lot of corporate work, which is our day job. And again, we would rather, no offense, we would rather do streaming all the time, because I think it's the perfect balance between theater and film. I'm in front of a camera, you know, but at the same time, we have that live audience interaction, which is the best of both worlds, to be honest with you. Because you can do so much from behind the computer and the camera while still being able to directly connect. There's just nothing really like it. But to get back on the topic, though, with this, though, you know, we do a lot of B2B work, or business to business. And so, of course, this was the story that Tatiana was mentioning about doing all of the Google work and, you know, showcasing how you can tell a story through video while still engaging people. And again, we apologize to people who are on our podcast who might not be able to see these videos. But for those of you who are joining us on the podcast, also make sure to check us out on YouTube, which is youtube.com/C for channel /MindMineTV. And you'll be able to see what we're talking about via this whole show, which we also put up on our YouTube channel every single week.
Indeed.
So with that, let's jump into it. So this is showcasing to other business owners, especially in the hotel industry, about how to utilize storytelling and what you can do with a video in order to grab someone's attention while still being educational. And that's what we're trying to do, is show them while putting in educational facts in a way about the impact of video and just some kind of tips and tricks in a way.
Right, and that was a great point to make too, right? It was for like the hotel or the there's a word for it, hospitality industry.
Hospitality industry, yeah.
Exactly.
Using Google, like how do people come across you as someone in the hospitality industry using Google and all of their tools?
And we had a lot of questions at the time as well, like, oh well, you know, you probably need a lot of people, you probably need a lot of locations, and we're like, you don't need a whole lot of stuff. You just need a good story.
That's right. We had 3 locations on this, by the way, and we shot this in a day. It was just a couple hours, actually, for the actual production of it. The post-production was a little bit different, of course, like I mentioned earlier. But overall, just a couple hours to shoot. We used 1 actress to tell a whole story, and we didn't have a single line of dialogue. And you'll see, again, how we utilized physicality, how we utilize the camera to tell the story rather than having someone tell it to you.
All right, here we go. And that was that. Now I want to go on vacation. Did you see her way her face just lit up?
Yeah, so that's, again, kind of reiterating for folks just joining us. We're talking about the entertainment industry, some of our experiences behind it from both a B2C, business to consumer, and B2B, business to business. And some of the things that we've worked on in the past and kind of why we've done what we've done, and to kind of show, again, the importance of storytelling and the importance of the kind of story you're working with, among many other facets. And so we're just kind of showcasing some of the work that we've done and answer questions in general from the audience in chat about just the entertainment industry, content creation, even to some of the nitty-gritty aspects of like lighting design, audio design, certain kinds of acting. You know, we talked about our past a little bit with, you know, what sparked our interest in theater, film, and content creation overall, and then what's really driven us further and really boosted our passions for what we do now, which is streaming, podcasting, and the like. And again, just what keeps us going and why we do it.
Indeed. And you know, we talk a lot about also that you don't need fancy equipment and you don't need a big budget to really create content that you want to put out there, right? Luckily, you know, a lot of things are a lot more affordable now, and this digital media revolution, it makes things a little bit easier as well to create, which is really great. There's a lot of free tools out there as well that you can pick up. Otherwise there are some low-cost alternatives. And then, you know, for a camera, I mean, you can just use your phone nowadays.
Oh yeah, and there's plenty of film festivals that
there.
even only accept films from your mobile device. And it's just because of how powerful they are, how affordable they are, and what you can do with them. You know, you have a bulky camera, you know, especially if you have like a Red Dragon or any of these, you know, or Epics and what have you, the 4K, 8K cameras, and they can be pretty massive. Not all of them, but they can be pretty big. And so the limitations of where you can put them and how you can move them around without having to get, again, more rigs that cost more money is a challenge for a lot of people. But now you can really put a phone anywhere, and there's all different kinds of grips and attachments to phones nowadays that really help you even tell a story through that. And I think it'd be great too, eventually in just a short while, to show the footage, the video that we took that's also on a smartphone. That was all done via one of the LG phones.
Yes, and that was also done around the same time that we did the other two that you saw about 3 years ago, because we got got a new fancy phone that was marketed specifically actually to use camera. Like that was their big, one of their big selling features was for filmmakers, you can just do it from your phone now. So of course we got it and did it.
Yeah, decided to kind of put their money where their mouth is in a way and really test it to see how well it worked. And again, it is very different to use your phone in comparison to a DSLR or any kind of camera, official camera. You know, I mean, you're dealing with different metering and how it takes in light, how it takes in colors. And so again, it's always kind of a challenge to try to figure out what you're doing on a phone, because you have this, especially if you've worked with cameras in the past, you have that vision and you're like, you know, how do I get it in this device? And a lot of times it's very difficult. It's almost like comparing sometimes, depending on the devices, to what our eye sees in comparison to what a camera lens sees, which is also very different. That's why it's very hard a lot of times to get that perfect sunset as an example, or that perfect kind of glare from the light of the sun off of something. Those aren't ever really quite the same, or how we see stars in the sky. It's very different from the eye to the camera lens, and sometimes from equipment to equipment, such as in this case, one of those higher end cameras in comparison to the camera on your phone.
And I would say, in terms of creating content visually versus creating content in some other way, like with words or something like that, is, utilize the visual medium to tell your story. So as we mentioned before, story is really absolutely number one, most important thing to create content that has an impact, right? Because it's easy to just throw a camera onto something and call it a day. It doesn't matter if the camera is super fancy or not. If it doesn't grab you, right, it's like a bad video game. Like, you're just not going to play it. You're not going to watch it. It's not going to stay with you. So I think, that's definitely the most important thing, at least in my mind, is, that story. And, not everybody is a great storyteller. I don't think that I am. So I rely on either, a creative partner to help me craft the story. Okay. Or I try to use my tools to help me as best as possible as well. For example, when I was filming my cats with my camera, I just filmed them. I, just followed them around the house, filmed them. And then in the editing process, I looked at all the footage and I put together the story. And then I added the music to it. And when I showed it to someone, they're like, "Oh, wow, how did you get your cats to do that stuff when you needed them to?" And I was like, I didn't. I just, I walked around, I filmed them, and then I made the story, and which I think documentaries work a lot like that in some manner, right? You're just following a bunch of people around. You have some idea of maybe what the story is or what you'd like to show. But oftentimes, and this is something that I hear from directors of documentaries, is that the story sort of happened either as they were filming and they got inspired, or when they were editing. So that's really important to, use your tools as well. And the editing process is definitely, that is, if you're creating content that isn't live, the editing process can really also make it or break it to some extent. You could have a great story, but if and it might be filmed properly and wonderfully, but if you edit it not quite well, if you don't execute it fairly well, you might lose that story, and I take a look at trailers, for example, right? Trailer editors, they are tasked solely with, picking not only the most amazing scenes in a film, but really the scenes that speak well together, that work together, and then they have to show them to you in a particular manner. And there's so many times where sometimes actually what you see in a trailer, it doesn't even make it to the film.
Right.
Or you see the ending in a trailer, you didn't even know it was the ending, right, until you actually watch the film. So, and I think that really speaks very highly of those people, those editors, because it's so, I've seen trailers where I'm like, oh, wow, I really want to see this film, and then the film kind of sucked. And conversely, I've seen trailers that sucked, and then I saw the film, I was like, I should have watched this film a long time ago. So, again, that's, I think the power, and I think maybe I'm a little biased as an editor, but that would be my 2 cents on it. Definitely story, and then planning as much as you can, because you will always deviate from your plan. Like, I guarantee it's going to happen. And some deviations might be phenomenal and some deviations may be frustrating. But at the end of the day, if you plan, you're like 90% ahead of the game.
Yeah, just having that at least game plan, and again, that whole concept of hope for the best, plan for the worst.
Right.
Plan for the worst.
Murphy's Law, as Josh said in chat.
Yeah, and you can only do so much planning, but at least you have something in place so that way you have a structure to work off if something does go awry. Now, going into the specifics, though, of filming with your phone, because I'm sure many people have tried or have been interested in it, but not sure what to think about. I mean, the same concepts apply. Again, having good audio and figuring that out, having a good overall color balance and lighting is really important. Even if you're using daylight, just something that really helps set the mood. But doing it with, of course, as we mentioned previously, the concept of your resources in mind. So don't, again, try to be Michael Bay on a beer budget. Do what you can to utilize your resources that you currently have now, or you can get your hands on fairly easily, as best as possible, and build that into the content you're creating, whether it's a short film or a full-length film, whether it's just a video for, I'd say just a video, but a video for YouTube, or elements that you're putting into a live stream. Again, just make sure you're using what you've got, and don't try to overextend yourself too much. Challenge yourself, but don't overextend yourself, because it is going to show and impact the end quality and potentially the overall story that you're trying to convey in the end.
And at the same time, I'm a perfectionist, and it's a wonderful way to live. But it also means that you can get lost in a lot of details, and that you are like, no, this has to be perfect in order for me to even start this. It's like, no, it doesn't. Just do it. Having it done.
Shia LaBeouf the shit out of it.
That's right.
Just do it!
Because you can sit there
I think
and
I
again,
had an aneurysm on that one.
be in your head so much that, done at 80% is better than not done at all, in some respects, right? Like you have to, especially if you are just starting out, especially if you don't necessarily think that you've got the formal education to go with it, or anything like that. If you've got a passion inside of you and you want to tell a story or be involved with something, or you want to, you have this drive to go do it, just go do it, Try to plan as best as you can. Get yourself surrounded by people who have similar interests, and ask questions. But really, just jump in and swim, because the water is fine. And I think, that's something that, Evan, you have taught me is, at the end of the day, you can sit and talk and think and, plan and make lists and do shot lists and do all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, you just got to do, because there's a lot to be said about, again, theorizing in your head and thinking and practicing and rehearsing in the mirror and, testing it out in your living room and everything like that. But it's another thing to actually go out there and do that.
Yeah, don't
proverbial out there.
Yeah, and as people have mentioned, especially Crazy Doc here in chat, that analysis paralysis. Don't overthink it too much, and don't keep thinking of the what ifs. What if this happens? What if this happens? And then it'll fucking happen. Excuse my language, but it's gonna happen. So you just gotta kind of let it fly and just accept it, and be, I guess, kind of expecting the unexpected in a way, by just going, hey, stuff's gonna happen and I'm gonna be there, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to utilize it the best and how to run with it. And it's not gonna be perfect the first time around, but the more and more and more you keep coming across these issues, the easier it is to handle them, and you're going to get a sense of how to work through certain situations. To give you a sense too of this short little piece we're going to tell you. So, we wanted to do something for a specific time of the year, and I'm not going to give it away yet because it'll ruin the film. But we really wanted to create a piece of content around this, and someone that worked with us said, well, hey, look. I love screenwriting. I want to write a piece. Can I work something with this idea that you have around this specific day, time of the year? And I said, sure, great, run with it. And so he worked on the script, and then I overviewed it, and he worked with also the screenwriter who did Mercenaries of Moranth with me, working on that screenplay. And so they worked together, and then, we all kind of came in and gave our points of view and really tried to work as a team as best as we could to really share ideas without also overburdening ourselves with all the what ifs again, and just going with, hey, I think this works. Let's just go with this. Let's not overcomplicate it and see what we can do. And we actually had to film at night in a mall parking lot. And because we needed an open parking lot space, a lot of what's happening happens around a car or inside of a car. And so we really wanted to have that isolated effect and the kind of darkness of the night. And these people are kind of hidden in a way. And it was funny because cops came and just kind of pulled up.
Yes. Oh, dear.
And they parked I would say probably about 20 or 30 feet away in the parking lot and just watched us. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure they're like, what the fuck are they doing?
It doesn't look like a drug deal, but I don't know. I can't tell.
Like,
what's that girl? Where is she climbing on right
Yeah, we
now?
had a ladder too. We legit, so we had a phone. We were filming it all on phone. And I know Tatiana and I were both standing on this ladder that was probably like, I don't know, 15 feet tall or 20 feet tall or something. Because we had to get a very downward angle shot. It was a very, very sharp shot. And a very sharp angle, I should say. And so here we are on this top of this ladder, and I'm sure the cop was just having a field day going, what the fuck is this shit going on here? But again, you know, from our past experience, you just play it cool, right? If you start getting skittish and you start going, oh my God, and then you pack up and leave, well, now you've lost a day of filming. But we just, again, played it off and just like, well, if they have a question or concern, they'll stop us and they'll bring it up. And, you know, we've had that experience before, or, you know, we've had experience where we were filming Paper Thin, which is our first short film that we were talking about originally. And we'd have people from a neighborhood just kind of come up to us, like, hey, what you doing? Yeah. And so, you know, we just kind of got used to it. So we brought some of that baggage with us when it came to the cops, and cops didn't bother us. They hung out for like a good 5-10 minutes, and we're just like, all right, well, this is boring. And they just left, and they just moved on, and it was fine. But it's having that understanding and just trying to keep a cool head as best as possible. You get worked up, emotions run high, especially on any type of set, whether theater or film. You know, behind the scenes or in front of the camera, drama happens. It's just natural, right? And so it's really important, especially if you're like the producer or the cinematographer and the camera operator or what have you. Just keep a cool head as best as possible. Or if you have to get angry and you're going to get angry, walk away for a little bit, you know, give yourself a 5-minute break, breathe, try to think through it, and then jump back into it. And that's really the point of it. You know, don't let some of the negative or some of the oh shit moments, what's going to happen, you know, like those moments dictate the rest of the shoot or the rest of the production. You know, take it with stride and just keep moving forward as best as you can. And that's really the best thing to offer with anything. But that, again, going back to this production specifically, just having that moment of, all right, great, we're going to get arrested today. All right, everyone good? Everyone good? Nothing illegal on anyone? Okay, great. Let's get ready for this in case this happens.
And in the next scene, Tatiana gets in the trunk.
That happened too. We needed an angle from the trunk looking up. And
and I was like, well, the cops are here. I'm like, it'll be fine. And then, so not only is Tatiana afraid of heights, she's also afraid of dark and closed spaces.
So it was a blast for everyone, especially the police, I'm sure, where they're going, okay, she's willingly going in the trunk. They're not forcing her in it. So let's run with it.
I have to say, whenever you watch a film and there's an interesting angle, that camera person, that's a trooper. Because it might be the cinematographer, not always, but that camera person is doing stuff that is amazing. And even when you do have tools and resources and camera jibs and everything like that, there are some angles that you can only get by putting yourself in some awkward positions. And I've witnessed some camera people do that, and it's just amazing. Like, if you find a camera person who is willing to do that, you hold on to them.
Yeah.
They're gold.
Yeah, and that's a great point, too. GL Gamer, who's also an artist, he draws and sketches, does some great work. And he says, I find it interesting, although a different medium, some of these parallels with other creative processes. It's a reminder, too, in a way, not to let my mental anxieties try to overrule my creative processes sometimes. And that's absolutely right. And I'd love to kind of elaborate that maybe a little bit toward the end here once we showcase this short. But I'd like to touch base on that, too, a little bit more.
All right. So here is the film that we shot. It's short again, about 4 minutes long. Shot entirely on a phone. Here we go.
All right. You know the plan?
I got it.
This isn't just some walk in the park for us, all right? If this goes wrong, that's the end of us. You know that.
I know.
When we finally get in there, we need to get in, get what we came for, and get out. There's a million ways this can go wrong if we lose focus. I've seen this go down wrong before. People get hurt. We don't want to get hurt.
I know. You're right. I can do this. I promise.
All right. Let's go. You'll head straight for electronics. There's only going to be so many of those flat-screen 50-inch TVs left.
Got it.
I'm going to do a wide sweep of automotive and home appliances, and then... It's the boss.
Hi, honey. Yeah, everything's fine. I'm at the mall with Dave.
Hi, Sarah.
No, I won't be long. Yeah, of course I'll get something for your mother. All right, love you too.
Coupons.
Yeah, so the thing we didn't want to give away is the fact that it was around Black Friday, and this was getting released on Black Friday, and so we wanted to make sure to, have some fun with it, and it's something that people don't usually film around as a concept, and so the original idea was let's do some kind of fun, creative short that is around the concept of Black Friday. And then, of course, we mixed it with this whole sort of like Quentin Tarantino-esque drama, crime heist sort of feel with the trunk shot. And then in the end, of course, all that kind of unravels and you get the light, coming into the darkness. And all of a sudden you realize, oh, this is kind of a play within a play in a way. And so, yeah, it was a blast. And the two actors really, again, gelled really well, and a lot of it was thanks to the acting too. Not even just the script or the camera or anything like that, but just the actors just having fun with it, being off book, which means being fully memorized with their lines, and just having good chemistry with one another, being able to play off each other's lines and having really fun responses each and every time.
Yeah, and I don't think either of them had done a film or anything with camera before, right? They were just theater actors. Is that right? Am I remembering that correctly?
As far as I know of, this was their kind of first major hurrah, if you will, into film and online content as well.
Yeah, because I remember there was, I was kind of talking to them. I'm like, all right, well, we're going to shoot this scene probably like 3 or 4 times from like 3 or 4 different angles. Just so y'all know, you got to do everything the exact same way each time.
And it was scary because they basically did. They really pretty much nailed it every time. Like, they were very cognizant of their hand motions, of their facial expressions, the timing of their lines. Like, it was very, very consistent. Sometimes it was actually kind of hard to tell when it came to takes, like different takes in a way, if you weren't really paying attention. And of course, I mean, everything is marked and everything in the very beginning, so you know what take it is and everything. But if you're not really paying attention and you just hear it, it was just so consistent. It was great.
Yeah, and then that was when because we were filming it with a phone. I was like, wait, how are we gonna get audio inside the car? Like, that was, and like being outside of the car, because usually, you know, again, when you've got your DSLR or something like that, you got your cameras and your audio, typically you do film it separately usually, but then I wasn't sure how to like connect the two. It was so funny. And then Evan's like, you just do it in post, Tatiana. I was like, oh yes, I'll just sync it up later. So that was just kind of neat too, to get that challenge, you know, filming on a phone.
Yeah, and it was a very, very cool experience, and we definitely have a new appreciation for cell phones now, or smartphones, I should say.
No joke. I want to see the adventures of Mickey and Davy, right? They were just so much fun. I did not want that like night to end, because I was like, I just want to keep filming you guys. And I think again, some of the I'm trying to remember that last part where they drop everything. Was that improv? Or was that a...
No, that was all improv. That was all improv, yeah. And then I think we did it multiple times. We really liked it the first time around, so we're like, let's do that again. So just keep it up. Just, you know, don't even let us know when you're going to drop everything, this take, you know, and any other take that we do. Just do it. Just feel a good rhythm and be... Because that's the other thing. If you're a director, you've got to make sure to, or an assistant director, or anything like that, you've got to trust in your actors. There's a reason why you brought them on this project in the first place. And the actor is going to really intimately know the character and know the characters that are around them and the actors and everything that they've been working with now. And they're going to really start feeling, you know, internally feeling this sort of rhythm and this sort of beat or life force in a way that helps the piece move, that helps production move. And you need to trust in their instincts as well, and for them to sometimes kind of improv a little bit and pull a little bit more out of the character than what you were expecting, or out of the moment more than what you were expecting, and just trust in it and believe it and let it ride and see where it goes. You know, there are times where it can blow up or not work, but there are a lot of times where it just works and you're like, yes, it was like you got inside the mind of the character and really took it further. Like, you felt kind of that instinct that the character would have. So, you know, you really got to just trust in them as well and let them just play. Let them have fun with it. You know, if they're not having fun, if they're not able to play, they're going to feel too restricted. And a lot of times you're just not going to get that genuine sort of response and action reaction that you so desperately need.
Yes, and as an actor as well, don't be afraid to try new stuff, you know, because like Evan said, sometimes you can bring to the table something that even the director, the writer, the cinematographer, the casting director, nobody thought of, right? Because you are inhabiting that character. And more than that, you're inhabiting yourself. And you've got your own experiences and your own sort of things that just try it out. Especially if you are doing a film, because... but also in theater during the rehearsal process, bring that out, because you never know when you will stumble across a gem. I would say. And then you wanted to talk about GL Gamer's comment.
Yeah, just, you know, again, your hardest critic is going to be yourself, and no real project is going to ever take flight or ever fully manifest without the drive from you. And you've got to figure out ways of inspiring you and to push yourself. You know, if you have ideas or concepts that you want to develop, no one's going to do it for you. And you've got to really make sure you understand that no perfect opportunity a lot of times is going to happen. A lot of these things just happen by happenstance. And so you really have to just take the bull by the horns, as the saying goes, and just go, you know what, this is what I'm going to focus in on. If I want it bad enough, I'm going to do it. If I don't, I'm going to keep making excuses on why I can't get to it. And again, a lot of times health issues also get in the way. And trust me, I completely understand that 110%. As someone who does face anxiety, depression, PTSD, yes, I've got all three of those. It's an awesome mixed drink. You should try it sometime, or don't. But, you know, as a person that has all those things geared up against them, I've learned too that I've got to motivate myself, and it is super reliant on me to do this because no one else will do it. And if anything, my biggest obstacle is always myself. You know, how I feel in the moment. Does it feel too overwhelming or not? Like, you've got to just get beyond that as best as you can and try and experiment. Because a lot of times what I've learned too is once you get in that flow, once you get beyond those kind of initial concerns or worries or situations that aren't really there that your mind creates for you anyway, because it is really trying to protect you, right? It's not trying to harm you, it's trying to protect you from harm, ideally. You know, even if that harm doesn't actually exist, your brain's trying to work right and trying to help you out. It really is, and we've got to accept that as well. But we can't let those concerns get in our way. You know, we've got to figure out a way of pushing ourselves, because I've learned that once you start rolling down the hill in a good way, you start rolling a project down the hill, you pick up speed and you start going, you know what, this is feeling good. This is feeling better. This is feeling great. And, you know, this isn't as bad as I thought, or, you know, this was tough, but I didn't realize this. I can do that. I can overcome this and keep pushing forward. And with every creative project, I've heard so many people say, well, you know, that's on the back burner, or, you know, I just don't have time, or this or that. And it's like, now, if I'm saying that, you know, I've gotten to the point in my life where I'm going, then, you know, if I'm saying I don't have time for it, it's because I don't want to do it. It's because even though it's a cool thought, I'm not invested into it. So either I need to make myself invest into it and find why I thought of the idea in the first place and why I think it's such a good idea to actually make it tangible or manifest it in some sort of format. Or I need to drop it and find something that I am really like passionate about and will actually push me to overcome those obstacles. And you don't have to have anxiety or depression or anything like that for you to get in your own way. You know, we talked about like analysis paralysis, overanalyzing a situation or trying to wait for that perfect situation, that perfect storm to kind of happen for everything to fall into place. And it just doesn't. You know, we have to take the initial steps. Some films, for example, have been out for 5-6 years and never get noticed until just recently. And people are like, oh, that's a new film. It's like, well, no. You know, many actors, too, all of a sudden blow up, if you will. And people are like, oh, they came out of nowhere. You know, they just got Insta fame. It's like, no, they've been working in film and television and even theater for the past 20 years. Where the hell have you been? Like, it isn't like an instant success story. You know, not many people realize that. I'm trying to think of the actor's name now. I'm blanking. The one that did Hannibal Lecter.
Anthony Hopkins?
Anthony Hopkins. Thank you. I don't know why I blanked on his name. He is actually one of my favorite actors. He's an excellent actor, but you know, he got his start very, very late in his acting career. And not many people realize that, but like The Silence of the Lambs was like his first really breakthrough role. And he was already, I think, in his 40s at that point. But the funny thing was, he'd been acting in film and anything else he could get his hands on since his 20s, even late teens. And most people don't even realize that. They're just like, oh, it's Sir fucking Anthony Hopkins, and he earned the fucking. So, you know, it's Sir fucking Anthony Hopkins. Like, you know, he's an awesome actor. Like, he deserves it. But no, like, people just assume, right, because of all the work he's done now. But it took a long time. And so sometimes you have to give it time too. It's not going to be instant fame, or it's not going to be instant attention. And a lot of it is up to you too. You can't just kind of sit on it. You push it as best as you can. Sometimes you let it rest, and then you push the boulder back up the hill again, and hopefully something kind of picks up with it too. So, you know, you've got to just motivate yourself and push yourself and find the stuff that you really actually want to push out there and put out there for content. No matter what it is, whether it's, you know, a series of portraits, whether it's a series of photos, whether it's a TV series. You know, you've got to find your motivators, and you've got to separate and really look through your personal bias and go, is this just something that interests me? Because great, I can present that to someone else and have them do it if they want to do it or something. Or is this something that I truly want to take on and expend my energy on? And I feel like that is actually a very wise investment for me. because you're investing money, you're investing time, and you're investing a lot of your emotions into any piece of art that you work on. And so you just got to make sure, is this what I really want to do? Because otherwise you're going to have that list of to do. It's going to be so backed up, and you're going to start kicking yourself for it and go, oh man, I should really do this. I haven't done it. I've been sitting on it. And it's like, okay, well, is it something that's actually important to you? If not, let it go. Let it go, because that's getting in the way of stuff you could be doing right now that you want to be doing. And I think that's just really key just to mention. Again, whether you go through mental obstacles or just kind of a fight against yourself because you're your worst critic, which always happens, just find what really drives you and be honest with yourself. Again, have that differential between this is just a cool idea I came up with and this is something I actually want to take on. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing to really help people move forward with all these different projects that they have kind of on the back burner.
And that's good. It sounds like really good life advice as well. Like we all have these things that we wish we could be doing or we'd want to try, stuff like that, but real life gets in the way. But yeah, be honest with yourself too. It's like, is that what you really want to do? If so, then you do have to take those steps to reprioritize what you're doing and kind of, I guess, in a way, course correct or change direction a little bit at a time. And no, maybe it won't happen tomorrow. Maybe it won't happen next month or next year. But 2-3 years from now, I mean, if you look back at where you were 2-3 years ago, kind of what I was talking about, life pathways just move you in all sorts of directions. And you can never really tell if you're sort of just kind of sailing on by, but if you make a conscious effort to turn the sails in the towards the direction that you want to be switching to, eventually you will get there, right? Personal trainers at gyms tell me that all the time, so I believe them. It's one day at a time, but you gotta turn slowly and into that direction as well. So
yeah, well, and again, we've mentioned this in past shows, is never judge yourself based on anyone but your past self. Don't look at, for instance, Anthony Hopkins and go, well, damn, he's done all this stuff. As Fuse said, like, he's one of the most creative guys you can ever meet. He's an actor, director, writer, music composer, just super talented.
God damn, I didn't know.
If you can't do all that, don't judge yourself based on Anthony Hopkins, because you're not Anthony Hopkins. Judge yourself based off of your past. Where have you developed? How have you improved? How have you overcome? And I think that's going to be the real thing that helps push you further and keep you motivated to keep your head in the game.
Right. And, I think that, 5-6 years ago when we started on the, on our digital media adventure, I was scared AF because, I had the usual 9-to-5, 401k, IRA. I had all of those things. I had a vision of myself, like, this is the path I'm going for. And then when we started talking about this content creation and these films and everything like that, my insides were like, no, you need to, this is where you need to go. Okay. Just do it slowly but surely. And it happened. So if you had asked me 5 or 6 years ago, like, hey, where are you going to be in 5 or 6 years? I would have been, this was not what I would have imagined at all, but I am so glad I'm here.
I'm streaming on the Twitches.
Yeah. I was be like, you'll be live streaming. What's that now?
There's going to be people seeing you from Germany and from England and from Canada. It's going to be crazy. Wait, what?
Canada. All right, so we've done a lot of talking for sure. If y'all have questions, by all means, this is the time. Put them in chat. We'd love to answer them. If we've already answered your questions, great. But yeah, let us know. We are here for you. And
once again, too, also for those listening to this podcast or as a podcast, again, just know that every Saturday at 1 p.m. PDT, we have our Serious Talk Saturdays where we have our MindMine main show, talk show, which we hit up, again, all different sides of the brain, left and right, and everything in between, from arts and entertainment to education and the sciences and technology. And if you want to join us live, we'd love to have you. So make sure to visit again, twitch.tv/MindMineTV, where of course you can follow us for completely free. Sign up for an account with Twitch, or if you have Amazon Prime, you can of course use Twitch Prime, sign up instantly for free, and be able to join the conversation. But if not, we greatly appreciate you listening to the podcast. And again, we'd appreciate it if you subscribe, which is completely free, of course, or follow, as well as share out some of your favorite episodes with others. Again, help grow the community. We love you to be a part of the community, and we love to keep growing the community to share more thoughts and get more ideas into the conversation.
Meow.
Throwing in the meow when in doubt.
Why not?
When in doubt, meow it out.
Pretty much. Ooh, I like that. I think I might use that. Do you have any closing piece of advice or something that you would tell your younger self in terms of the career path that you've been on and sort of the journey with the medias?
Honestly, one of the biggest things is just to make sure you love what you do. If you have a good feel about it, put yourself into it. That's one of the biggest things. Stanislavski, who is kind of the father of modern day theater and acting, said, you should love art in yourself, not yourself in art. So, don't love it because you love the attention, because otherwise you're going to be miserable. Do what you do because you love doing it, and you don't care how the attention is. Again, more attention, you potentially can pay more bills. That's always a plus, or buy a little bit more food for the grocery list. But overall, though, it's going to help your sanity so much more. And there's so many people that try to move out to California because a lot of times, besides it just being very, very difficult, they love themselves in arts. They love being on the stage. They love the attention, and they love how that makes them feel, rather than actually the process of. So, learning their lines if they're an actor, and trying to break down and analyze a script and the background of your character, and trying to fully develop that character into something that's living and breathing for the audience to truly enjoy. Understanding that what you do impacts the audience, and that having people spend their time, energy, and money on you is one of the largest compliments you can ever receive as an artist. And that you should cherish that rather than look down on it or continue to want so much more and say you're still not getting enough. Again, that just shows that you love the concept or a potential benefit from doing what you're doing, but you don't actually like what you're doing or are passionate about what you're doing. So a lot of times it's trying to find that balance between your head and your heart and find something that really does drive you. And it doesn't have to be something that you're great at either, because that's not always the case, right? Don't always go for something that you're super talented in, just because of the fact that, you can find ways of utilizing those skills and implementing them into something you are passionate about. And I do really believe that, to be honest. It's just how much of an uphill battle are you willing to face? That's the crux of it.
Yeah, I heard somebody once told me this incredible way of looking at life that just changed my mindset. It's not thinking about when you want to go for a job or a career or a project or to do something. It's less about, in some respects, what you want to be doing and what you want to put up with, but it's rather what are you willing to not put up with, and what are you willing to put up with in terms of that as well. Everything that you're gonna choose to do is gonna have its pros and cons. It's gonna have its ups and downs, and it's up to you to kind of decide, well, what downs can you withstand and want to withstand, and what ups and pros do you want to have.
Oh yeah, and also too, I mean, is that something you would tell yourself, or what would you tell yourself then, to your younger self, about kind of that career, or what to aim for, or anything?
Stop listening to everybody else and start listening to yourself, because there's a lot of things that I did because I thought that's what other people wanted me to do, or I thought that that's what they wanted me to do, instead of really just sitting with myself and being like, what do I like doing? What don't I like doing? And what drives me? You only have one life, and you're the only one living it for yourself. Nobody else is walking in your shoes. So that's what I would tell myself, definitely, is, you know, just sit down with yourself and really think about what you want to do, and then go do that. Don't worry about everybody else. Be nice to them, but don't worry about them.
And GL Gamer says, solid advice, Tatiana. Remember that mixing me up when I thought drawing was the only way I was creative. Yeah, again, you can even be that voice in your head saying, oh no, this is the only thing you can do. And it's like, well, no, actually, there are more opportunities out there. It's just being willing to be open-minded and to be willing to experience it or test it and see what comes out of it.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening us talk all day. And thanks for joining us and watching some of our past videos. It's been actually really fun to watch them again. I'm noticing we infuse a lot of humor in our in our past projects, whether subtle or not. So that's exciting to watch.
Absolutely. Well. And of course, as Fuse said too, one day my terrible stickmen will be looked at with great reverence.
Hey, you know, they're not terrible, all right? Don't sell yourself short. You've got a lot of creativity and ingenuity behind your drawings.
There's thought behind it. There was thought.
Yeah. Again, it's not about the fancy equipment or anything like that. If computers weren't around, I could not draw to save my life. So, you know, I just know how to use the tools properly, for example, to make myself look fairly decent at it. As well.
So, well, thank you so very much for joining us today, whether you're listening to us, again, via podcast or live on Twitch. Again, we really greatly appreciate you and being a part of the community. So thank you so much for your time and for hanging out with us today. We, again, will be back with another Serious Talk Saturday next Saturday at 1 p.m. PDT. And to keep up to date with all of that, make sure, of course, to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, which is at MindMineTV. Or, again, follow us as well on the good old Twitch, which is twitch.tv/MindMineTV, where we constantly give you all the updates on what's going on with content, scheduling, and topics, and so much more. But until then, thank you so very much. And once again, if you're live on Twitch, we will be back around 5 or 5:30 PDT with more God of War, as well as tomorrow for our Single Player Sunday, even more God of War, because we can't just get enough of that damn game. And other than that, thank you so very much for listening, for watching, and we will speak to you soon. Thank you.